Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking a little more Chicago Bears, some Chicago Bulls, Chicago Blackhawks, and might be dabble a little baseball here and there. But first, I'd like to wish a happy birthday to my co-host, Alex. Happy birthday, Alex. 26?
Yep, 26.
26 years young. Also like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. We all know the season's probably over because of the stupid coronavirus, but that shouldn't stop you from heading on over to icehogs.com. Get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Who are the Rockford Ice Hogs? Glad you asked. They are the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. So definitely head on over to icehogs.com. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. So what did you do for your big 2-6 birthday, Alex?
Well, normally I would have done more, but as you can imagine, not much was done. But, I enjoyed the day. It was nice and chill. I enjoyed the nice weather, went on a little walk, had a nice dinner with my family, had some cake, and, just called some family members and friends. So I made the best of it. It was pretty good, considering couldn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, my birthday's in a month, so I probably will be doing something similar, maybe even with nicer weather. So I will probably have to take the the precedent you set and apply it to myself, because I don't see this being over in a month.
Yeah, I don't either. We hear all these new proposals for all the leagues, and it always seems like such a pipe dream just because you see the way things are going, and it's like, well, it's not like it's just going to snap of a finger get better. It's going to take a while. So hope for the best, I guess, but I don't know.
I mean, at least pretty soon we're going to get Korean baseball.
Yeah.
I know it's not
right.
the same, but
it's baseball though.
It's baseball, and I will take it. Honestly, I will take it.
I'll take anything.
This is like the longest I've gone without a live sporting event in my lifetime.
See, Sean is going so crazy. He's breaking out into hives and covering himself with marinara sauce because he's missing being a meatball.
I'm a big meatball. Give me the sauce.
He's just in a big tub of it.
Sauce me. Sauce me.
More. I think you've had enough. More.
Sir, you're drowning. I said sauce me.
We're desperate at this point.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're going screaming for Korean baseball, it's desperate.
I was on a call this past week with my work. My boss was telling me about extreme marble racing, where people race these marbles down a track, and like the people get really, really into it. You were telling I don't remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, it was the guy he built stands with other marbles. It's crazy.
Oh, you did tell me about that. That's right. I keep hearing it from different people. I can't remember who told me what was what anymore. But yeah, I still have to check it out. I still have to check it out.
I mean, don't race. It's only because there's nothing else going on that you would even watch this.
Right.
It's the minute there's Korean baseball. If they put Little League on TV, I'd be like, no, watch Little League instead.
Yeah, we're not going to have the Little League World Series. That's a pretty big deal.
You know what's crazy is man, who was telling me? Somebody was telling me just the other day that that they have a friend whose kid is in like a traveling little league league and they said that in 2 weeks they have a tournament in Georgia and it's not being canceled.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
So that's kind of crazy. But I'm just thirsty for baseball, and I hope we do get Korean baseball. I just don't care at this point.
I know. I mean, after a while of watching a bunch of replays, you're like, all right, I want to see something live. I could watch the Cubs winning the World Series over and over, but it's also like, man, I want actual sports to be happening right now. I passed by Wrigley Field last weekend. I was stopping by my brother's house who lives in Wrigleyville, and, I stopped by the ballpark. I had my mask on and everything. It was a really nice Sunday afternoon, and when I'm walking by it, it was sad because you know that normally baseball would be happening there, but it wasn't. It was tough. As beautiful as it is to look at, when you know there should be baseball being played there and there isn't, it was very just surreal almost because we never really thought something like this was going to happen in our lives, but this is where we are, and imagining no baseball at Wrigley Field when the weather is nice, it just hits you,
Yeah, I mean, Mayor Lightfoot said that she envisions a point where we could have baseball in Chicago this summer, but she didn't really elaborate. So I don't know what that scenario is. And if some of these, there's been, different ideas floated about, and I don't know which ones are the more serious ones, but this one that's the three divisions and everything is, played in one area, like 3 ballparks. It's going to be weird, but what other choices do we have?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the proposal itself and I say, I wouldn't like this normally, but at this point, if that means baseball, then I'll take it. If it's for one quote-unquote season, or it wouldn't even be a season's worth, but if the 2020 season was that, it's better than nothing. But, you look at the proposal, you look at the timing of the proposal, like, what their goal is, it still doesn't seem realistic to me, personally. I mean, the plan itself, as weird as it is, it's like, okay, maybe it could work eventually, but, wanting to start, like, I don't see anything happening in June at this point.
I mean, we're 4 weeks away from June. So,
and you would still have to get everyone together and have a training first.
Yeah, you'd need training camp. You would need some spring games. You just can't pull people out like that.
And here's the thing. If you're not going to have minor leagues, and I know the minor leagues came out and said the report saying they were canceled wasn't true, but I mean, it feels almost inevitable that there's going to be something cut with the minor leagues at some point this year. But, they were talking about expanded rosters. So more minor leaguers would have spots on major league rosters if this proposal does happen, if they do have baseball. But the thing is, you're not going to fit everyone on the roster. You have how many levels of minor leagues? You have low A, high A, double A, triple A. That's a lot of guys. You're basically going to be fitting in a select crew from triple A, I would assume. You can't fit everybody on the roster.
Yeah, you might pull somebody in from double A, some triple A, but how many? Yeah, you're right. How many people can you actively put on there and play and give them playing time?
Right. I also feel like if you have some sort of spring training, again, quote unquote spring training, you know what I mean? But I feel like if they were to, obviously do that, I feel like most of it would be like a split squad type deal. So your baseball activity / games is just like scrimmage almost, team versus team. I think they'd want to keep as little between the teams interacting as possible. So especially early on when things might not be as certain, I feel like you'd have a lot of quote unquote spring training games just inter squad basically.
So I saw my buddy Gary sent me a CBS Sports. They did assuming this 10 or these 3 division realignment for the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
They did a simulation of what the Central Division would be. I don't know if you saw this.
I didn't see the simulation. I just saw like what the divisions would be lined out as.
So, okay, we know what the division is. It's basically the White Sox division and the Cubs division mashed into one. And you add the Braves.
Which is kind of a big addition.
It is a huge addition. So, according to the CBS Sports simulation, who do you think they have winning the division?
I mean, if I had to personally obviously I'm not a computer program, but I would pick the Braves. I'm not sure they picked the Braves. Why do I have a feeling they picked the White Sox to win?
Nope.
No. Okay.
They have the White Sox as 5th.
Okay. I mean, the White Sox, we know all the young talent they have. I just would be surprised if a team with such young talent would be projected so high. But the way you were going with that, I thought maybe the White Sox were somehow simulated to win, but it wasn't the Braves.
No, they're 3rd.
I'll
throw out the two teams they have with the worst record.
Okay.
You can probably guess those easily.
Probably the Tigers and the Royals.
That would be the Tigers and the Royals.
Did they pick the Cardinals to win?
They have them at 2nd.
The Indians? Or wait. Was it the Indians?
It was the Indians.
Really?
They have the Indians with a 65-35 record.
They lost Corey Kluber for nothing. Their lineup isn't that good anymore. Really?
That's basically what I said to Gary, because they have the Cubs at 3rd to last at a 40-60 record. And I think Gary was sending it to me to kind of poke at that. And you know what? That might happen. I think that's more likely to happen than the Indians winning the division. I don't think there's any way that Indians win that division with St. Louis and Atlanta and the Reds. They have the Reds at 4th to last at 45-55.
Yeah, I mean, if I was predicting that division just based on talent, I mean, the thing is, I will say this. If you have a shortened season, weirder things are bound to happen just because it's a much smaller sample size. Bad teams do get hot. And if a bad team gets hot at the right time, well, that can make a huge difference. But if I'm just basing it off just talent and where they were, I'd probably pick the Braves to finish 1st, the Cardinals to finish 2nd, and then 3rd, I don't know. I mean, I think the Cubs are good enough to finish 3rd, but I could also see them finishing down there too. I could see it being either or. I don't really see the Cubs finishing above 3rd, though. I see them between 3 and 5.
That seems realistic.
Right. The Twins, they're always on and off. I know they have a good lineup, but I don't think their pitching's that good. It's win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. That's how their seasons go for whatever reason. So that's a coin flip to me.
And I agree with you that shorter season, flukier things can happen. But this is assuming a 100-game season, which is still a pretty big sample size.
It is.
I think you normalize that out a bit.
Sure. No, that's true.
I think it's hard for me. The Reds have a good lineup.
I'm still waiting for them to prove it because I feel like the last few years, every offseason, look out for the Reds, look out for the Reds, look out for the Reds. And then they win 75 to 79 games. I haven't bought into them yet.
It's true. Man, it's tough. I feel like the Brewers are not that good. They have them at 55 and 45 in fourth place.
They're not that good, but they'll find some weird ass way to pull it out again.
The key in this is because isn't it like the way if it goes this way, you only play teams in your division, right?
I think so.
So, it's really important to win those division games, obviously, because that's the only games you're playing.
Right.
But the Cubs to do well, and they're gonna have to beat up on the bottom feeders, and sometimes they struggle with the bottom feeders.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the teams in that division. I mean, with the Cubs, I worry about that old pitching staff against the Braves and the Twins. Because, like I said, the Twins, no matter how they finish, I think they're going to have a pretty dang good lineup, obviously. And a number of those Braves players have given fits to the Cubs pitching. And with the Brewers, the Cubs have had trouble hitting their junk pitching staff, and it's really, really annoying. Now, in terms of the White Sox, just because they're such a young team, a lot of these upcoming guys, a lot of unknowns, it's really hard for me to predict where they'd finish. Like, they could take a huge leap forward and finish towards the top. Or they have growing pains with some of the young players and they finish somewhere in the middle. For me, I think they're one of the hardest teams to predict in that division.
The reason, based on if this happens with a 100-game schedule, compacting, less days off, getting it done in a shorter amount of time, it's tough for me to pick the White Sox to do well, because I think the first half of the season they might struggle a little bit.
With natural growing pains, right?
Yeah, and then sort of find themselves, and if with a full season and playing in their division, sort of find their groove and pick it up towards the second half and have a pretty solid year. But with 100 games and only playing teams in your division, it's really important. It's going to be really important for somebody to get out to a solid early beginning of this season.
The room for error and growing pains is less, yeah.
Because typically, you're basically having to leapfrog every team in your division to win this thing. You just don't have a lot of margin for error. You lose, 2 out of 3 to, let's say, to the team ahead of you. You just suddenly fall behind. You fall behind quick. Every game matters. Typically in the season we see, all right, well, the Cubs and the Cardinals are competing for first, and they both lost today. All right, so they kind of square up. But in the division, somebody's gaining or losing ground every moment.
Right.
And that makes it. I mean, it makes it kind of interesting, but it also makes it really important to jump to an early good record.
Yeah, no doubt at all. I mean, I don't really see any scenarios where the Tigers or the Royals make any sort of noise. I think you can pretty much cancel them out. Even if the sample size is smaller, they're just not good. I mean, they're a ways away from contending. But it's like the rest, you could look at the rest and say, yeah, if they get hot at the right moment, they could definitely make a run at that. What I also think is interesting, too, is if you're playing just your division, then there's really no reason for people to point at each other's schedules and say, oh, look at their schedule, theirs is easier. I mean, your divisions are going to be playing all the same teams. So, in theory, the schedules would at least be more even because you're playing the same teams.
That's true. And it's funny. I'm looking at this a little more. And you're right. I don't see any way the Tigers or the Royals could win a 100-game schedule in this division. I just don't see that.
I mean, that Tigers team is bad.
And expensive.
Yeah, because they're still paying a lot of rotting corpses on that team, unfortunately.
Every other team if you told me the Indians, it's funny. The Indians are like, if you said who's the if you had to pick 3 teams that you just didn't see a way for them to win, it would obviously be the Tigers and the Royals. And probably my third one would be the Indians. Out of everybody else. Which is funny because they have them like with a 65%, 650 winning percentage, which is huge. I just don't see that happening. And but every other team I see has probably a legitimate chance in a pathway that they could do it.
Yeah, now the Indians, I think, obviously have a much better shot than the Royals and the Tigers, but I would agree. I don't see them being as big of a force right there. They do have some talented guys left, but you look at what made them so good in 2016 and 2017, a number of those guys are gone, and the Indians didn't really make any effort to replace them.
Yeah, and if I have to handicap this, I would put my best odds of winning with the Braves. Then
Me too.
The Cardinals, the Cubs.
And I will say this too. I don't think the Cardinals are that great. They're going to be carried a lot by their young pitching staff led by Jack Flaherty. I mean, that was pretty much their best asset. But the Cardinals find a way no matter what, it seems like. Because look at the Cardinals lineup. It's not that scary, in my opinion.
No, it's not. But they have this like voodoo magic that they do that keeps them afloat.
Yeah, again, I think a lot of it is attributed, at least recently, to their great young pitching. And if that great young pitching is there, then obviously that's going to give them a great chance. You obviously have Paul Goldschmidt in your lineup, but outside him, you look at it, it's like, okay, you have Tyler O'Neill, you have an aging Matt Carpenter, you have the corpse of Yadier Molina, you have Dexter Fowler, who can still do a thing or two, but
if he's healthy.
If he's healthy, yes. But it is certainly not a murderer's row lineup. It is not like the prime days of Albert Pujols when Molina was still young, when they had like Ryan Ludwig and they had Troy Gloss and they had Scott Rowland. It's not quite like that.
And then after that, I would probably put the Twins, White Sox, Brewers. Now, where the Reds fit in there. Man, maybe after the Cubs, the Reds, then the... Man.
It's tough.
It's tough. There's some good teams in this division.
There are some good teams, and, I think the Cubs are a little unpredictable. The one thing I don't have confidence in them winning the division, but I still think they're a good enough team to make a run and finish upwards, but I also think that their holes can result in them finishing towards the bottom. It's so back and forth for me.
Yeah, and the East, man, they're kind of top heavy, but they've also got some bottom feeders in that one. Mets, Blue Jays, Marlins, Orioles.
The Yankees are going to have a field day with those teams.
They predict the Red Sox to win that division. Tampa to be second.
Come on.
They have Red Sox first, Tampa second, Pittsburgh third, Phillies fourth, Yankees fifth, Nationals sixth.
What? Really? The Red Sox?
Yep.
Who lost Chris Sale to Tommy John, to lost Mookie Betts in the trade, who really regressed last year. David Price David Price was involved in the deal. Wow. That shocks me. Unless they're counting on the Yankees to be injury riddled again. But the Pirates? They have the Pirates finishing over them?
Yep.
The Pirates have nothing. They traded away their last known hitter in Starling Marte. Okay, they have Josh Bell, but outside Josh Bell, that team has no home run power whatsoever. Did you see their pitching last year? It was shit. The Pirates?
And then in the West, they have the Dodgers just absolutely running away with it.
Well, that seems pretty reasonable.
They have Padres second, Houston third, Giants fourth, Angels fifth, Oakland sixth, then Rangers, Diamondbacks, Rockies, and Mariners.
I mean, maybe I'd predict a few switches here or there, but overall, I can't disagree. I still think the Houston can finish second, but I would pick the Dodgers to win that. Yeah, I see Angels middle of the pack. The Padres, I don't know. They have all these young guys, but I've yet to see it come together.
Yeah, I don't see them being second. That would be a tough one for me.
Right. I don't think the Giants are going to be that good either. They lost Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah, I don't know how they think they're going to be good. That's a little bit of a shocker to me, too.
Yeah, and you can't really use the even magic thing anymore.
So
the Pirates? Really? The damn Pirates?
Well, you know what? If they're going to find a way to be good, at least they're going to be good this year when they're not in the same division as the Cubs.
Yeah, true.
Like, I would find it hilarious if they did awesome in that division.
It would be funny.
Because they would beat up on the Yankees, which would be awesome. And then the Cubs would be like, they weren't in my division. I don't care.
Remember when they won 98 games in 2015? And then they were one and done against the Cubs. I mean, that goes to show how cruel the wild card game could be. And how crazy it was that the Cubs won 97 games that year and finished third. They made it further than their whole division in the playoffs. They beat the Pirates and the Cardinals. But the Pirates and the Cardinals were the only two teams better in all of baseball that year record-wise, and the Cubs finished third.
It's crazy.
They were the third best team in baseball and finished third in the division. That's nuts.
Yeah, I hate when that happens because then on those kind of years, you usually have somebody with a dog shit record that makes the playoffs. And you're just like, man, that's so unfair that a team that did awesome, gets one and done in a wild card game. And then some team that's 3 games over 500, it goes on and does well. In the NFL that happens. You'll have a wild card team that wins 12 games, and then in the other division, you'll have a team that's 8-8 or 9-7 that wins the division, and it's just
like
unfair.
The Eagles.
Yeah.
I remember when the Bears won 10-6 and missed the playoffs.
Yes.
Ugh.
So, do you want to talk a little football? Do you want to talk a little basketball, or do you want to talk a little hockey?
Up to you.
Let's go Blackhawks.
All right.
So, I mean, there was not much going on other than John McDonough got shown the boot.
Kind of out of nowhere, too.
It really was. I mean, it's odd to me that he's the first one to go. If you were to tell me they cleaned house, I'd say, okay, because I feel like the path that this team has taken over the last couple years has just been the worst one. Where you're just not very good and you're not getting better for the future. This team should have been taking a serious tone 2 years ago and put every effort into building for the future and not worrying about, let's make it back to the playoffs. Because they were, we've shit talked the Red Wings because they put everything into keeping that streak alive of making the playoffs. And look what it's done for that organization in the long run.
Right.
And I just feel like the Blackhawks kind of went down that path. They're like, let's patch it. And then, where are we at now?
Stuck in purgatory.
Pretty much. We're not bad enough to get the best odds to get the, a top pick, or the top pick. We're not, which even in hockey is going to take a little while for them to come up, but we're not good enough to compete for a Stanley Cup, and we don't have enough financial flexibility to make a big splash in free agency. So it's a tough spot.
Yeah, it is.
And, John McDonough has his hand in there somewhere, but honestly, the biggest onus should be on Stan Bowman. I'm shocked that he's not the first one to go.
I just wonder if they didn't want to hire any hockey personnel when the season was still in limbo, that maybe this kind of move was an indication of things to come when everything is over with officially. I don't know.
Or maybe they want to put somebody new in that place and have them make the decision of who the GM is and who the head coach is.
That could be too. That because I think a lot of people are right when they say they might want to bring in a hockey guy, because look, John McDonough, I've personally met him. My brother knows his family. Very nice guy, very good with people, very good marketing guy. He helped bring a irrelevant, dead, just completely awful franchise back from the dead. The slogan "one goal," the bringing them back was, obviously it took the team winning to do it, but you also needed to market it itself to help bring that back. And, he did that, but he's not a hockey guy.
No, he's not a hockey guy. He's a marketing guy, and he's done an amazing job. What year did ESPN name the Blackhawks the worst franchise in the four major sports?
2004.
So that's not very long ago.
And he came in what, 2007 after the Cubs?
Yeah. And just look at the absolute turnaround. And you're right. You have to win to get that next level. But man, there's teams that have won. The Kings were, right there with the Blackhawks in that same time period with
Don't
that.
mention the Kings.
But do you think that they have the type of marketing and just they don't have the ticket sales of the Blackhawks. They don't have the television ratings. They don't have the number of people wearing their gear out and about, the hat sales, the jersey sales, the shirt sales, etc., the merchandise. They don't have any of that. They don't have that level of the Blackhawks. And that's coming from a much bigger market than Chicago too. And just, I know part of it is it's hockey's more of a cold weather thing, and Los Angeles doesn't have that. But
LA's a Laker Dodger town.
But they had a winner in that town, and couldn't sell it. Look at their parade. The last time they won it,
it's like a few 100,000 people versus 2 million in Chicago.
Yeah, it was. I don't even think it was a few 100,000. I would say. Honestly, it looked probably like 100,000 people.
Something like that, yeah.
And the Blackhawks had over 2 million, and it's unreal. So the job that they did, they have a store downtown. What they've done, just reinvigorating the organization within the city. It's an amazing job, but Rocky knows that this team, in order to keep that up, they have to win. You're seeing how quickly, because there's always going to be the diehard fans. They're going to watch no matter what. But the folks that you need to watch, there's not a lot of just casual hockey fans. So in order to get those people watching, you got to be winning. You got to be front page news, and they're not. And you're seeing how quickly those ratings were, before the season ended, were disintegrating, because the casual folks just, if they're not winning, turn it off.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he was definitely a big part of that. But, I think that when you have reestablished yourselves back in the city of Chicago like you have, now the viewership might have decreased a little bit since they started missing the playoffs, but I think they've reestablished themselves enough where they're still going to sell tickets. They're still going to fill up the arena going forward. So, the rebirth, the dynasty, to me, I almost see it as he came and he did his job. Now it's time for the Hawks to evolve and get a hockey guy in that position so they can get back to winning. The people know the Blackhawks are here again. And, John McDonough did his job. But there's just no need for that kind of marketing anymore. What you need to do now is just win.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is based on my own observations. This is something I swear by. I want to get your thoughts on it about the Blackhawks. We talked about how important it was for John McDonough to really market the Blackhawks to the new generation of fans. Because I think one of the biggest things about the Blackhawks resurgence and about the marketing and the winning, they really captured, I think, the younger generation of fans. And I think that's what is really important. But, you have your diehards and a strong hockey base. Some people try to say, winning brought all these Blackhawks fans back, yada, yada, yada. That was part of it. John McDonough was big in bringing in the new generation of fans. But the Blackhawks fan base as a whole, I mean, you and I obviously know they pretty much fully disappeared outside some of the absolute diehards for a number of years, correct?
Absolutely. And
you saw the United Center.
And it was, honestly, it to drive a diehard Chicago sports fan away like that, the team did it. It was the team shooting themselves in the foot.
And that's my whole point. What my biggest thing about the fans coming back is I believe that the biggest factor of bringing the fans back, it wasn't winning. It was simply the fact that Bill Wirtz was out of the picture.
Yeah, what he was doing was just, he didn't have a sense of how to run a hockey team. Everything he did was just wrong. And, if you want, TV revenue is where you make money. It's not in stand concessions and ticket sales. That's just not how sports are in this era. And to just not have them on television was idiotic.
He was under the impression that the season ticket holder was the most important, and that was it.
Yeah, and, and part of it, so there's just so many things that, you could improve. Put them on television. Get people excited to see. They're like, oh, man, I could see the Blackhawks now. They then makes it go, oh, yeah, well, let me take my family there. Go see them. Put a winning product on the ice. Make the fan experience at the games amazing. It's going to a game. It's really cool. Everything from, the intro to the anthem, the goals, the horn, the like it's everything. It just, they put a good fan experience. The United Center itself, the way they've done the main store, and even though I don't like that they put the Jordan statue inside, they've put other statues outside, which is a cool attraction. The main store with the subway car in there is cool. They make it, you want to spend money, you want to be supportive, you're excited to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember in 2007, 2008, that was the first year under Rocky. They still weren't really a big thing at the time. They weren't. It was Kane and Taze's rookie year. It was before they became contenders. But I'll never forget going to a game on a Sunday afternoon in March. And when we went there, we were like, I was with my dad and my grandpa, and Again, this was before they were overall big, but we were surprised at how full the United Center was. We're like, wow, this is almost a sellout. It had like 18,000 people in it. That was pretty rare at the time. So I think just the immediate impact of new ownership and Wirtz being out of the picture brought back those established hockey fans. It was a matter of attracting the new generation of young fans and just really casual people. I think Chicago always had that strong base. Just most of that strong base had been turned away from ownership and the way they were playing. They were starting to fill the United Center before they were winning Stanley Cups again right after Rocky Wirtz took over. So I think that whole thing gets kind of overlooked sometimes because because of the winning that overshadowed everything.
But you also changed the demographic of the fan that came to the game during the dark periods. It wasn't families. It was old crusty guys, old crusty hockey fans. And you go there now and you're seeing business people, you're seeing families, you're seeing groups of young people. You still see the old crusty fans, but it's the demographic has evolved, especially if you go to events like the Family Fest, where you just see so many young kids and they're all excited about hockey.
And they fill that arena then too.
Oh yeah. And that's the coolest part, is because when you get these kids as kids loving the Blackhawks, you create a fan for life. And then especially, if they were in an era where they were winning, because, that's kids kind of now, much more than so when I was a kid. I mean, I guess probably I was the generation that started that, but it's kind of increased. But, before me and right around my era, there was, you rooted for your home team no matter what. And then it started to become more of a, well, they've got the cool new uniforms, they've got the star player. I'm a fan of the player more than the team. And I've got 5 favorite teams from all different parts of the world. It's to be able to take and establish young kids to be a fan of your team and win during their era and just really cement it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many elements to bringing fans to a game. It takes good marketing to a new generation like John McDonough did. It takes good ownership and fixing the sins of the previous one like Rocky Wirtz did. And it takes winning. Because let's face it, if a team wins, more people are going to pay attention naturally no matter what. It's just you have to create a solid, established fan base. Because if the Blackhawks were poorly marketed and people didn't really pay attention much to them, but they were winning, you'd get people when they were winning. But then a lot of people would drop off immediately. But now you're seeing the Blackhawks on their 3rd straight year of no playoffs, they're still filling the arena. So that fan base was established by completely reinventing the way the Blackhawks operate. Because the way it operated before, just the amount of people it drove away was insane. You look at some of those mid-2000s games at the United Center. There were games where the announced crowd was like 10,000, but you say to yourself, there's no way there's 10,000. There's maybe like 6,000 or 7,000.
Yeah, it looked like
the Chicago Wolves were outdrawing them.
It looked like a WNBA game in there, the number of people.
Yeah, it looked like if your football team had a really big stadium, but the football team has been so bad year after year that the only people in the stands are the parents.
It's hilarious to hear like some of the old score guys talk about the dark ages of the Blackhawks, where you could the beat writers would count the fans in the stands. Yeah, you could count them. I think Pat Foley famously said in the 2010 documentary of the championship,
at the time, you could shoot a cannon in multiple directions in that stadium and you still wouldn't hit anybody.
That's funny. So yeah, I mean, we'll talk more about it, but as we get more information. But I mean, really, John McDonough's gone. Stan Bowman and Jeremy Colleton can't feel too safe, to say the least.
No, I think that this might be an indication of bigger changes to come. I'm not sure yet, but I think it definitely could be pointing in that direction.
Yeah, I think that's coming. And, once we start seeing interviews or hear potential names pop up, we'll discuss this more. But as of now, it's kind of a lot of unknowns happening right now with the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
I guess we'll finish the last thing before the Bears. The Bulls have a new general manager. And
yes, they do.
I kind of like the hire. So I mean, we've talked about it before. I talked about it with Big Dave. I really like the way AK is handling things. It really seems he's coming in here. He's got a plan. He knows what he wants to do, and he's doing it in a logical, really good manner. And I think the way he went about the GM search and what he said he was looking for in a GM just made so much sense that it made me go back and look, and why the hell didn't it make this much sense before?
All those years.
Yeah. I mean, he basically said, I'm looking for somebody that has skills that I don't have to complement what I do have and work synergistically. Well, goddamn, that's not some simple but brilliant shit.
It's so refreshing. It really is, because you look at not only AK, but you look at the guy he hired, and you look around the league. You see interviews from people, you see comments made by people. There's not one person, big name person out there saying, wow, the Bulls are really screwing up. I don't like these picks for them. They're getting praise for the people they're bringing in.
Yeah. And
can you believe that?
Yeah, like the Mark Eversley signing, or the hiring him as a GM, I think that's really good. And you can instantly see what the skill is. I don't know. I didn't know a ton about him beforehand. I mean, I knew the name and I knew where he was. And he's been around a long time. But immediately when they hired him, I looked and I was like, okay, well, I know what that skill that he has, that the AK is trying to bring with. And Mark Eversley is a guy that builds relationship with players. He's a guy that's going to help bring free agents to the Bulls.
Which is literally what we've been waiting for a long time.
So Mark Eversley started off at Nike, and he was a marketing guy at Nike, went on to Toronto under Brian Colangelo. And then when Brian Colangelo got fired from Toronto, Eversley moved on to Washington and then came back with the 76ers when Colangelo was there and stayed even after Colangelo left. He's built himself a really nice resume. He's built relationships with players. He's a smart guy. He's a people person. He's basically the opposite of Gar Forman.
It's the opposite of everything we've had. Smart, intelligent, modern way of thinking, building positive relationships and looking to build a positive culture. All we've had is toxic culture, not good people, and, very outdated ways of thinking.
And it was amazing. The first thing I heard him say publicly after he got hired was, Lauri Markkanen is a stretch four. He's got great skills. He's got a great jump shot. He regressed last year. I want to figure out why.
Yes, fix the issues. Don't try to Jim Boylan the whole thing. Actually look at the type of player he is and use his strengths. Oh my God, it's so refreshing.
looking at honest evaluation of your talent, and we know Lauri Markkanen. We all Bulls fans know Lauri Markkanen's got talent. It's why can't we maximize that talent? Why can't we consistently see that talent come to fruition? And it's going to be nice to see changes be made and not second guess them.
Lauri Markkanen was falling back because he wasn't being played properly.
Yeah, so I feel like, the other strength Mark Eversley is going to bring is, I heard that he has an engineering degree with a focus in catapult building. So they can angle the launch of Jim Boylen so that he goes to Wisconsin.
He's gonna land in Sheboygan.
He's gonna land in some podunk town in Wisconsin that we never have to see him again because he's gonna get lost. He's gonna get dizzy and lost.
He's gonna land on this big giant bratwurst that's just standing outside. Boing.
What's hilarious is Jim Boylen thinks that he's got a future with the Bulls.
Yeah, didn't he say I'd be blindsided if I was gonna get fired?
I feel like he's playing the media, and I feel like that probably worked with Gar and Pax. But
it ain't gonna work now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Your fate is already sealed, and they just haven't said it yet. But there's, I feel like the only reason he's still there is they want to see what's going to happen with the rest of the year in the league.
Right.
But there's no way Jim Boylen is going to be the head coach next year.
I mean, Artie even said that you got to be patient with the rest of the process just because the situation is a little different than normal. That to me right there says, yeah, they're going to overhaul. I mean, why would an intelligent man like Arturas Karnisovas not make a change there? It's inconceivable in my mind. I would be so unbelievably shocked to hear that they were even considering not making a change. I mean, I am 100% confident that they are going to be making a change. And look, they're, like we said, like the exact opposite of what the Bulls have been. And I'm going to assume that they are going to be communicating with the players. They probably already have. But if they talk to the players, I can guarantee you one thing. They're not going to be giving Boylen any ringing endorsements.
No, not at all. And I can't see, based on Jim Boylen's performance as the head coach of the Bulls, the player lack of endorsements, and just his general buffoonery, there's no reason I could see to maintain him. None.
No.
So it's we all did a dance when John Paxson stepped down. We all did a huge dance when Gar Forman they said, AK was like, I talked to him and we're not on the same page. He will not be returning. I was like, dang. Typically you get a press release. You don't get the new head of basketball operations just coming out and just being like, put you on blast. So I think all Chicago fans did a big dance at that point, and we're saving the final moves of our dance for when Jim Boylen gets run out of town.
I think you're going to see the biggest dances when that happens, and by that I mean you're going to see it from the players.
I'm just going to be watching for Zach LaVine's Twitter to see what he has to say.
Oh, he's going to make something snarky. It's going to be hilarious.
And so it's, nobody wants them there or him there. And I'm really curious to see what kind of dynamic that they plan to have, because, I think we all agree that there's some talented young players on this team, but there's no continuity. Nobody has reached their max potential, and I don't know. I don't know the proper direction. I mean, I'm at a loss. Like, some of the teams I have ideas, but with the Bulls, I don't know what direction you go. I think I don't think you can move forward with Wendell Carter Jr., Lauri Markkanen, Zach LaVine, and Kobe White, all of those guys. I think you're going to have to part ways with some of those. And I think it's going to depend a lot on what happens in the draft. And if you're able to get LaMelo Ball, I think that really changes the dynamic too. So I'm going to be really curious to see who they value the most and where they see this potential going and the direction that they take on this Bulls organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's going to be a lot of evaluating just on the court because, like you said, the draft can make some determinations there, but I think what the Bulls would love to see is look at these core guys that they have right now. Let's see what they can do under a coach we want in the system they're meant to play and give them a chance to see if they show more signs of reaching their full potential. Because remember, they haven't played together very much. It's like if one person's healthy, the other person's injured, and when they are playing together, they have not had the right coaching above them to help them reach their full potential. It's the organization has kind of held some of these guys back a little bit, so if they actually put in a good system in place, maybe you will see something sprout. But, year one is going to be a lot of evaluation, I feel like. It's not going to be an instant click.
And you wonder if they're going to try to move some of those contracts to create some flexibility for free agents like Satoransky. Is there something they can do to move on from Otto Porter? I'm curious to see what smart basketball people are going to do with this organization.
Yeah, because, I mean, Otto Porter isn't a bad player, but he's making a lot of money. And
a lot of money.
Yeah, I don't think that they should rely on Otto Porter being part of the future as we go forward. I like him as a player, and I think he could serve another team better somewhere else, but I just don't think there's, for both Porter's interest and the Bulls' interest, I don't think there's any reason for them to continue.
I mean, I don't know what they do to move on from him, but if he's healthy, maybe he could serve a purpose, but he doesn't have a long-term future with this organization, especially not the money he's been making and the money he probably expects to continue making.
Right.
I want to wrap this up talking a little more Bears. I was talking about it before a lot of people were upset with the draft, not because of the players we got, but because of positions we didn't take in the draft. And, I was like, when we were kind of looking through the depth chart, I was like, I fully see the Bears after the draft signing some one-year deals with stop gaps at certain positions. And I was like, and they pretty much hit some of the ones that I was definitely expecting them to hit. They signed John Jenkins because I thought they were a little thin and the interior defensive line. You have Brent Urban, Roy Robertson Harris as defensive end, but really behind Eddie Goldman, you don't have anybody. So I think John Jenkins is a nice stopgap. He's not a world beater, but a guy that you can plug in and you know what you're going to get.
You can rely on him to not be bad.
So I'm fine with that. It's a nice pickup. I dropped a name as far as safety to be a competition for Deion Bush, and they didn't sign the guy I was thinking of, but because he wasn't available at the time. But the Texans parted ways with Deshaun Gibson, and the Bears picked him up on a one-year deal. And he's an interesting name because 2 years ago when Eddie Jackson was potentially right up there for Defensive Player of the Year rankings, like phenomenal year. He played 72% of the snaps he was on the field as free safety. And last year, he played 51% free safety. You saw a lot of free safety from, 2/3 of his snaps for Clinton Dix were at, the free safety position. So I figured they would bring in a guy that was more known as a box safety, so you could move Eddie Jackson, back in a position that he plays better in, and you're going to get better results. And Sean Gibson is a guy who, he's a little more than halfway for free safety. The last 3 years he's done 52% of his snaps as free safety, but so a little shocking. But he's an interesting guy. He's a guy that's played at a high level, but he's also a guy that's not done so hot. He had a couple year stretch with the Jacksonville Jaguars where he was a really good safety, and and then he went to the Texans and just didn't have that good of, not terrible, but not a very good year. And, but you look statistically, and Deion Bush, actually, I was looking at Pro Football Focus rankings, and I know they're skewed defensively or for safety, but Deion Bush has like borderline Pro Bowl numbers as far as safeties go. So I'm it's nice that they're gonna have a solid backup, but I like that there's competition and Gibson's gonna be playing for a contract. I just I think that's gonna bring out the best in him. I just didn't know that was the guy that would be best to bring in. I hope we see more of Eddie Jackson in center field where he's a playmaker.
I like this signing a lot. I think that getting him on a prove-it deal can really benefit the Bears in the short term because I think there's potential for him to play really well for that reason. Like you said, when you look at the overall numbers for his career, they're pretty good. He was a Pro Bowler in Cleveland. He could take the ball away. He had 3 interceptions last year. Year before, he only had 1. But you look throughout his career, 23 career interceptions in how many years? 8 years or so. I think that they could be getting a nice value here for him. And I like the idea of getting an experienced guy in here. And he's durable, too. He's played 112 games in his career. He hasn't missed that many games.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Deion Bush, but there's a lot of unknown factor. And I started putting the roster together on the defense, and good grief, I think this is going to be a really good defense. I think this probably on par with the defense from 2 years ago. And as much as I like Deion Bush, I want a veteran there to, where you're not relying on, if Deion Bush isn't who you thought it was, you've got, who do you have back there besides him? DeAndre Houston Carson, Steven Denmark. I don't like the depth that they had after Bush. So that was my biggest motivating factor, that they had to bring in another safety, because it's going to be a competition to push each other, and then whoever doesn't win, you feel much more confident with them as the backup.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel pretty confident in Deshaun Gibson. I know he's reaching 30, but I still think he's got something left in the tank. He's obviously trying to prove it this year. The plenty of experience, I think that's a good thing to have. I really do. I think this is a really nice signing by the Bears.
Yeah, I do too. They swooped in when they saw him hit the market, and I know for a fact, that they were scouring the wire for veteran safeties to bring in, because there was no way that they were, even if they're high on Deion Bush, I'm fairly high on him. you can't go in there with no depth behind them. You just needed a veteran in there.
Right.
Even if you thought Bush was going to be your presumptive starter, you needed a veteran. And this is a move where it's going to be low 1 year, a low enough money deal where if he can't beat out Deion Bush, you're like, that means Deion Bush took a big step forward. So you feel happy about that. So both,
Yeah, absolutely.
So far so good on the moves that they did post draft. You feel very confident in those. The other move they did was they signed Ted Ginn Jr. And this one made a poop ton of sense to me because we've talked about it before is the Bears have a lot of receivers and, they've got some interesting talent at receiver. The one thing that they're absolutely missing is the speedster, somebody to take the top off the ball. And they drafted Darnell Mooney, who can fly. But as I said when I was talking about him, is his frame is so little. I don't think there's any way that he can be a serious contributor in the NFL at this point. You're gonna have to get him ready. You're gonna have to bulk him up. You're going to have to get him in the weight room. And, if you can get him to a build where he's a little more durable and can get off a press off the line, can take a hard hit from a safety, I think you've got a really interesting football player. But the fact that they signed Ted Ginn Jr. makes me realize that they don't think he's ready either. I think he's going to be a practice squad type guy.
Yeah, I think this is a nice little depth piece move, frankly. I mean, Ted Jr. is not a star number one wide receiver, but he's been in the league since 2007. He's had, value as a depth guy throughout his career. I think this is a nice move just to shore up some of that depth. And I think that, even if he doesn't get that involved, but at least is there, it's a good thing to have, frankly.
Yeah, he's got a role. Allen Robinson Allen Robinson is your number one receiver. He's your number one target.
It's not even a question.
It's not even a question. You feel like Anthony Miller is your number two, but you need that guy to stretch the field, and you don't need him necessarily to make these big plays, but to be a threat of big plays. And to make that safety move and that's exactly what Ted Ginn Jr. does. And, that's the purpose he's going to serve. This is not going to be a high-powered offense. I mean, I think we all would be absolutely shocked if the Bears offense became high-powered. And the fact that now we have two tight ends that we feel comfortable with. We've got a U tight end and a Y tight end now with actual ability to play those roles. You feel like that's the direction more of where the offense is going is driving it through the tight ends. Ted Ginn is going to be a package guy where he's going to create room in the middle of the field for those safeties. I mean, for those tight ends to get the ball. So I don't think you even care so much if he's what he once was, which, coming out of college, people were very high on Ted Ginn, just never materialized to who they thought he was. But, he's made himself a nice little niche career. And I think he's just, he's got a role and he's just got to fill that role. He doesn't need to, the Bears don't need him to be even a top 3 receiver. They just need him for that specific purpose.
Right, yeah. And if I remember correctly, Ted Ginn Jr. was a top 10 draft pick in 2007.
Out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ohio State.
Yeah, he was a pretty big prospect. But, even though he didn't pan out the way people hoped, the fact that he's still playing and, made himself into a useful player is obviously huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't expect him to have stellar numbers by any stretch.
No.
But,
no.
it's he's going to have a purpose, and
You need those type of players.
yeah, and with the way the offenses go in this day and age with the NFL, I think you need a speedster. And you see Kansas City use. Their top receiver is a speedster, and that would be ideal. But we do have a legitimate number one wide receiver. We just need a speedster to help. Every once in a while, it's going to be nice to hit somebody in a slant in stride and let him that speed take over and get a big chunk of yardage, or carry the safety away from the play and leave single coverage for Allen Robinson or single coverage for Jimmy Graham, and to make a big play. Part of creating a solid offense is having guys that can create mismatches and having guys that can occupy a defender that would otherwise double team somebody.
Yeah, it's going to be an offense where you're not going to be making a bunch of amazing plays. You're going to be, trying to open up the playbook, but you're not going to really want to rely on, at least I don't think at this point, rely on throwing downfield a lot. So those slant plays are going to be more important. Do you trust Trubisky throwing downfield accurately? I don't yet. Can Nick Foles do it? We'll see. But I think you're going to need a lot of those types of plays.
It's funny. I don't know if you saw. I retweeted somebody. They took from the combine the year that Trubisky was drafted, and they had Mike Mayock talking about him, how Mitch Trubisky was the number one quarterback in the draft. He was the most consistent quarterback coming out of college. The only other guy that he could even see ranking as high as him is on some people's board. It might be, what's his name from the Texans?
Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson. But he said it was Mitch Trubisky was the number one. And, it's some vindication. It's never going to be, the same vindication as actually having Pat Mahomes as your quarterback. But
no.
You're like, okay, well, when people are like, what the hell was wrong with your GM? Why did you draft this guy? Well, here's why. Here's experts saying the same thing. Here's the Raiders general manager raving about this guy coming out of the draft. It's he just didn't come to fruition. It's a gamble.
Well, we might as well bring up Mitch Trubisky because he's part of the news right now.
Yeah. The Bears decided not to pick up his fifth-year option today.
Now, I think one thing that needs to be really clear is that this doesn't necessarily stamp the end for Mitch Trubisky. It's merely just taking away all of his protection. So if he wants to be part of the team in the long run, he's going to have to go out there and prove it. It's an open competition at quarterback. He's going to have to win the competition over Nick Foles. But this doesn't mean necessarily 100% that he's going to be gone after next year, because if Trubisky does play really, really well, but if he really steps up, he wins the competition, and then he has a good year, well, then you can franchise tag him the next year and see if that keeps going. It's just saying, look, he is not guaranteed anything. It's, his draft status, any of that protection, it's gone. He 100% has to earn everything.
Yeah, it didn't. Based on the position that he plays and where he was drafted and the production you've seen so far, it didn't really make any sense to pick up the fifth-year option.
No,
because, you can cut him with the fifth-year option. You could cut him, but if he were to get hurt this year, it would guarantee the contract next year. So if he got hurt and Nick Foles had to play, and that would be it. But because you don't, and the money that it was going to be, it was like $24 million that you'd have to pay Trubisky for that fifth-year option. that's pretty much what your franchise tag money is. So, if you're the Bears, why wouldn't you just wait and franchise tag him if you need to? And if now you're wide open. If Mitch Trubisky does really well, and you're like, okay, we feel like he's learned the system, that shoulder is healthy, and we feel confident what we're getting here going forward. You could either just franchise tag him and have him for one more year and make him have 2 good years in a row to earn the money, or you could sign him to an extension. So this isn't necessarily the end of Mitch Trubisky. He's going to be on the team this year, no matter what. It's up to him how he's writing his own future right now. If he wants to be part of this organization, if he wants a future in this NFL, then he better come out guns a-blazing. And honestly, I know he had a dog turd year last year, and there was a lot of factors and they weren't all his fault. I don't think that shoulder was ever 100%.
No, the offensive line wasn't good, and teams had a lot of his teammates had a lot of dropsies, but at the same time, he also made a lot of mistakes.
There was no running game. The offensive line wasn't very good. I don't think his shoulder was 100% at all at any point in this season after that early injury. I don't think Matt Nagy did any favors by the play calling and not utilizing his athletic ability, but the majority of it was Mitch Trubisky wasn't not nearly good enough. His decision making wasn't good. His understanding and command of the offense not very good.
No,
and he looked tentative out there. And you need to be so comfortable in that offense that it's just second nature. And he doesn't have that.
Right. He can't take over a game despite everything. Unlike Drew Brees or a Pat Mahomes.
So, Mitch Trubisky needs to be better, and it's his future is in his own hands right now. If he wants to succeed in this league, he's got to earn it. There's no falling back on it, and it sucks that the Bears have wasted the 4 years of affordable quarterback play. Imagine if I don't want to go there, but it's, we wasted it for 4 years, and I'm glad they took it this direction rather than what Los Angeles did with the Rams.
Yeah.
And sign a terrible quarterback to huge money. And that's a guy I don't understand why he doesn't get more criticism than he does, because he's not very good.
I think it just might be the fact that the Rams, even though they're in Los Angeles now, aren't that relevant compared to the Bears. I don't know.
But, I honestly think the Bears defense is primed to return to where they were 2 years ago.
If they're healthy, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. So, from the top down, safety, it's a competition between Gibson and Bush, who's going to be opposite of Eddie Jackson. And either way, I think it's a pretty solid safety tandem. Inside linebacker, Roquan Smith and Danny Trevathan. I don't know if you have a better inside linebacker core in the NFL. When those two guys are healthy, and whatever weird issue Roquan Smith had that still is amazing that we don't know. It's those two guys are an amazing tandem. You've got your slot corner. It's going to be a competition between Buster Screen, who had a really good year last year, and Duke Shelley, who's a guy that they like.
Shelley. Sorry.
And you've got Kyle Fuller on one, outside corner. You've got, and the other one is going to be a competition between Jalen Johnson, Artie Burns, Trey Robertson, Kevin Tolliver, and Kendall Vildor. And I think that's based on the number of guys that they have, and all those guys have some upside to them. It's going to be really interesting to see who comes out of that competition. And I'm excited to see, because I think whoever it is, they're gonna be primed to be a good starting cornerback. I really do. I think that competition's gonna really build a solid cornerback.
Yeah, and I think the Bears hope it's going to be Jalen Johnson just because he was one of their top picks, even though it wasn't a first rounder. But I think that he's got the talent to be that guy. It's just, you worry about that shoulder injury a little bit and, obviously being a rookie going up against a couple of veterans. But I think talent-wise, he's got a lot of promise.
I think he's going to be the starter. I don't know if he's going to be the starter right off the bat. I think Kevin Tolliver probably has that nod just because he knows the defense. I think he's done some good things, but I think, once Jalen Johnson is fully healthy and, gets this defense, gets a few weeks under his belt, figures things out in the NFL, I think we're going to have a solid corner, and I think it's not going to be too long before he takes that spot over Kevin Tolliver.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then on the line, edge with Robert Quinn, Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Bilal Nichols, and Eddie Goldman. Now we're starting to see some depth behind those guys with Urban and Roy Robertson Harris and John Jenkins and Travis Gibson and Barkevius Mingo. You're like, okay, all right. And, last year, I think one of the biggest problems with the defense is we just weren't able to get any pressure on the quarterback, and the quarterbacks got free, clean looks, didn't get knocked down, and it really exposed defensive backs that, were, an injury-riddled defensive backfield that, got exposed a little bit. And
sure, yeah, absolutely.
Especially after you saw Akeem Hicks get hurt, it was basically people double, triple teaming Khalil Mack, and you didn't see Leonard Floyd take advantage of that in any way, shape, or form. And I always wanted Leonard Floyd to succeed, and he just never became the guy that we hoped he would be. And I wasn't very high on him coming out of college, but I gave him every opportunity, and he just never was able to become that guy. Now you've got an actual guy who can disrupt it, and a healthy Akeem Hicks. So you feel like that pressure is going to come. You hopefully improved your defensive backfield. That's you're looking to create those turnovers and takeaways. The only other thing you can do to help that defense is, and the defense can't really do this, the offense needs to establish a running game.
Big time.
You think it's amazing to think about. It's so synergistic. The Bears need to establish the running game. It keeps the clock moving, keeps the opponent off the field. It shrinks the game. You have less opportunities for the other team. If you can, let's just say you can stop them from scoring in 3/4 of their drives. If you give them 12 drives and they're scoring on 1/4 of them, it's a lot of points. If they only get one drive a quarter, it's a lot less points they're scoring. It makes it a lot easier to win. And keeps your defense fresher. And if you can play with the lead, then it really, gives your defense the opportunity, because, when you play with a lead, you can take more risks. You're not playing on your heels anymore. You're playing with your ears pinned back. And, that's kind of what the Bears need to do. And, that established thing in that running game is going to be hugely important to making this defense successful and making this team successful.
Yeah, no question. I've watched teams like San Francisco, the way they run the ball, the way they execute it, the way they have moving parts all over the place. Just imagine if the Bears could do something like that. It's going to be hard to replicate San Francisco because they have the right personnel and coaching to execute as good as anybody. But if you can get more moving parts and implement a run game better, smarter, and more effective, that could just go such a long way.
You know, the offensive line 2 years ago, which was pretty much the same offensive line, was much better. I don't know how they regressed. I don't know what happened.
Well, Charles Leno really having a bad year, I think, hurt a lot of things.
It just cascaded. I think, you know, as much as I think James Daniels is the center and Cody Whitehair is the guard, there was some learning, there was some growing pains there, and you had to switch it back to kind of set you back a little bit. And also the fact that none of their starters played in any preseason games, and Matt Nagy realized that it hurt them, because this year you're going to see, you know, he's already said that you're going to see those guys play. You know, offensive line is built through repetitions. It's built through playing together. That's why you see offensive lines that have continuity and the same 5 guys start every game. Those are the best offensive lines, because you build it. It's a lot of communication and a lot of, symbiotic relationships, and it's teamwork in there in the trenches. And every offensive lineman that played a long time in this league will tell you how important communication and being able to trust the guy next to you and understanding who's doing what is so important. So, you know, you hope, and you build that through playing together. And so you hope, starting right off in training camp and just playing in the games, the preseason games, you start off game 1 of the regular season with a much better effort than you did last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't remember who it was. Was it Olin Kreutz? Somebody was saying that, Harry Hiestand, the offensive line coach that they let go, if you think Juan Castillo is going to step in and be a better coach, then, you might be sorely mistaken. So I don't know if you're going to see a better coach per se than Harry Hiestand, but you might see a better blocking scheme for the guys you got. You might see some different things, and Harry Hiestand was responsible partly for more than just the offensive line's coaching, but he was part of the run game coordination, and the run game just was abysmal last year. They were one of the bottom feeder teams.
That's an understatement. Abysmal.
They rushed for like 90 yards a game. Just not good enough to win in this league. And, so hopefully just having a new coach in there, somebody then focused more on the run game, you're going to see better production there and more emphasis, especially when you have a quarterback that you don't fully trust.
Right. I mean, the running game can't be Bills fan puke like it was last year. It was so aggravating because you remember there were a few sequences where they used Dave Montgomery and he did some good things. And you're like, wow, maybe they'll establish a running game. And then they'd go away from it again. It was infuriating.
David Montgomery broke so many tackles last year. And you're like, man, if only we could get this guy where he's not getting just demolished as soon as he gets the handoff. If we could put him in a little bit of space, man, and he could actually break a tackle with room to run, that would be huge.
Give him space and he bounces around like a pinball. Yeah,
so you don't see that. I also got a couple people are asking me why the Bears would draft a tight end with their first pick when they didn't have a first rounder. They didn't have very many picks, and they already had 10 tight ends on the roster. And I get the purpose of that question. I really do. I understand where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. But it's a case of quantity over quality of what they had. They needed quality. And, kind of a follow-up, linked question is, why would you pay so much money to Jimmy Graham? And the Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham are both tight ends, but they're both going to be playing different tight end positions. Jimmy Graham is coming in here. There's the Y tight end and then the U tight end, the move tight end. And Jimmy Graham is going to be that Y tight end. It's basically a glorified wide receiver. And he's not going to block. He's just going out there to run pass patterns. And that is what Jimmy Graham is going to do. And to ask him to do anything else is setting him and yourself up for failure. And so the fact that prior to bringing in Cole Kmet, I think you were going to have to put Jimmy Graham in the position of playing some U tight end in addition to playing Y tight end. Now you bring in Cole Kmet, and he's a guy that can play that move tight end, which you can line him up as a halfback, you can line him up as a fullback, you can line him up on the edge where he can chip somebody and then go out into a pass pattern. That's more of the type of guy he is. So you're adding a complementary tight end piece. You didn't really have, you were plugging in guys off the street last year to play that position, and you didn't have anybody. You just didn't have that position. So now that you have Cole Kmet, is he as good as the top tight ends in the league? Potentially. I don't know. I think he's more of a Jason Witten type. Jason Witten was pretty damn good tight end. Is he the same kind of guy as Antonio Gates or George Kittle or Rob Gronkowski? No. He's also still going to be a Hall of Famer probably. And he's come up with so many big catches and contested catches and tight catches, and did it unremarkably. You never saw the huge flashy plays, but he just did everything so well that it just, you became, a vital part of that offense. And I see Cole Kmet being more that type of guy. And so what's his potential? Probably, best case scenario, that type of guy. But the cool thing is his floor is pretty darn high. So he can come in day one and do a lot of things that you didn't get out of anybody else. Adam Shaheen was a guy that you thought could have a high ceiling, but his floor was pretty damn low. Cole Kmet is a guy that has a similar skill set as Adam Shaheen, except his floor is very high. And he's even if he ends up not being the guy you thought he was going to be, he's still going to be a guy that plays 10 years in this league.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's kind of what the Bears saw. And they had for them, was he probably the best player they had on the board at that point? Probably not, but he was probably pretty, they probably had a group of people. He was in that group, right in that range. And they looked at him as after, if it was another position that maybe was a deeper at that position, they probably like, oh, okay, maybe I go somewhere else. But after Cole Kmet, it kind of dropped off pretty dramatically.
It was not a good tight end class. Everyone knew it.
Not a good tight end class. So you basically had the guy, and he was in your pack of guys at that position, probably the 30 to 50 range. You're like, okay, well, he's the guy. It's a position we need. He's right in this range. Let's pull the trigger on him. And that's the reason you have Cole Kmet.
It's like having a drawer of batteries, and most of the batteries are completely drained or nearly drained, and while you still have a bunch of batteries, you want one full power.
Yeah, so, it's half of the guys that are tight ends on this roster, they're just
practice
not going to...
squad guys are not going to make it.
Yeah, they're just not going to make it. And there's a couple of guys that are going to actually compete, but it's going to be a tough sled, for some of those guys to get even a clear shot to make the roster because the volume of players. So every time you go out there in a practice field in a preseason game, if you expect to make this roster on the tight end, you're gonna have to really hammer something home and do a great job, because this Bears team last year, I think they were either last or second to last in tight end production in the NFL.
And they were top in money invested in tight ends.
And so
what does that tell you?
Yeah, so I think they had something like 400 yards receiving in the tight end position all of last year. If you can take and improve that to, between all your tight ends, 1,000 yards receiving, you've exponentially improved the quality of your offense.
Yeah, I'll say.
So I think it was important, to have a guy that you can count on and come in day one, because, love Notre Dame or hate Notre Dame, it produces good football players, and they play. It's a high level conference, and he's a guy that can come in day one and perform for your team, because it's Adam Shaheen was playing against nobodies, and you hoped that he was so much better that it could project to the next level. Cole Kmet is a guy that played against the best college players in the country and one of the better programs in the country, so he can come in and play.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, remember, Adam Shaheen was from a D2 school.
I think, isn't he the only player that's ever been drafted from that school?
I think so.
But the last thing I wanted to go through was the Bears brought in a bunch of undrafted free agent rookies. And, most of the time, the Bears have been, the last few years, a team that brought in some of the bigger numbers of undrafted rookies, which is kind of fun, because they're like additional draft picks, and more guys to learn about. But most of the time, those guys get bounced so quickly. But they brought in a smaller number of players this year, and there was a couple of guys that I actually think are interesting. They brought in a guy, Dieter Iselin, offensive lineman out of Yale. And the kid is absolutely a road grader. I mean, I couldn't find a lot of film on him coming from Yale. It's not a powerhouse football school. But watching this kid, man, he is a nasty player. He's mean, and he just was pancake block people. But watching him run down the field on a screen pass or try to pull, and I've seen 97-year-old women run faster than he did. He's so slow. And honestly, it's going to be tough to mask how slow he is. But man, if you could put some wheels on that guy, you would actually have a pretty solid prospect there. But you can't really teach speed to a guy that's 6'4", 350 pounds.
Unless he rides Buttercup on the field.
There's another guy, Badera Traore, who's a offensive lineman from LSU, 6'7", 310 pounds. And he's another guy that I just, he played for a powerhouse school in LSU, but he didn't have very good leverage. He's pretty flat-footed. Didn't really drive guys. Meh. they signed. We talked a little bit about it last week. Is Khalil Mack's brother, Ladarius. He's got a nice motor. He had some decent production while he was in college, but his stats were pretty much all from his senior year. He's not the same guy as his brother. I have a hard time seeing him impact the team.
We can dream though of the Mack brothers, right?
Oh,
the
yeah,
dynamic duo.
That would be amazing. Then they brought in a defensive lineman, Trayvon McSwain from Duke. He's long, he's athletic, he's got a really good first step, but man, once a blocker gets on him, he can't shed that block, and he's not fast enough to be an outside linebacker, but I don't think he's big enough to be a defensive end. He's kind of a tweener, and I think that's a tough position for him to be in. But then there's a couple of guys that I actually think were pretty interesting. The first one is LaCale London from Western Illinois. He's a defensive lineman, and he absolutely dominated the Western Mountain or the Mountain West Conference. It's not a D2 school, but it's also not an SEC school. So, take that what it is as far as dominating that conference. But he's powerful. He's a bull rusher. He just absolutely overpowered guards and centers. He's a good tackler. He's got a solid motor. And so I think he's an interesting guy. Probably a practice squatter at this point, but I think he could be a guy that, could be a steal later on. They got a running back, Artavis Pierce from Oregon State. He's a great long strider. He's a big back at 6 foot, 210 pounds. He's experienced as a returner. He's got pretty decent agility, nice hands. He's got some wiggle in space. The big knocks on him is I think he needs to pass block better, which, is pretty common with running backs coming out of the college ranks. And I think he needs to hit the hole quicker and harder. There was a lot of dancing sometimes, but I think he's actually a pretty interesting guy. And based on the running back depth on this team, I think he actually has a shot to make this roster.
Yeah, I've heard a few things about him too, and maybe he will.
They got a linebacker named Rashad Smith out of Florida Atlantic, and this guy had amazing production. He had 2 straight years of 100 tackle seasons, 5 fumble recoveries in 12 games. He was invited to the East-West Shrine Bowl, ran a 4.67 40, which is, a little slow, but he had great production, good football IQ, was apparently a team leader. I think this is a guy that could cling on and win a backup inside linebacker spot. I kind of like this guy. He reminds me a lot of a Nick Kwiatkowski type player.
Be nice to have a replacement.
And then the last guy, saved the best for last. And this guy, I saw film on him, and there's not a lot of film, which is surprising coming from the school he came from. But man, this guy, he makes like my scouting sense tingle. Ahmad Wagner out of Kentucky, 6'5", 234 pounds, runs a 4.6 40. He was a 3-year basketball player at Iowa, and he transferred to Kentucky to play football. Kentucky really misused him as a blocker, but the guy is fast, and he's super athletic, and he played wide receiver, freak athletic ability. He had so many pass interference calls with the cornerback covering him because they just, with how fast and athletic and big he is at 6'5", 234, running that fast, it just created a mismatch. And, like what cornerback is big enough to cover that guy? And he's too fast and athletic for most linebackers. It's a mismatch. I think he is a prime candidate to move to a wide tight end and let him, be the guy that replaces Jimmy Graham next year. If you can work on him a little bit.
That'd be nice.
A little bit of a project, but he screams George Kittle. He screams Antonio Gates.
Boy, wouldn't that be nice?
So I think this guy for giving him like $50,000 wherever the signing bonus is as a undrafted rookie, I think this has so much potential. And when I watched him play, man, I was like, I loved this. This, if nothing else comes of this undrafted rookie class, I think if they play their cards right and work with this guy, I think they can have a really good player here.
I hope so. I really do.
I don't know what kind of work ethic he has, but man, I was impressed. And the Bears have spent so much time looking for a converted basketball player, and they found one.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I really, it's a terrible time for, training camps to be question marks, because I am desperate to go out and to Bourbonnais or where are they playing? Where are they doing training, or we're supposed to do training camp this year? It's not going to be Bourbonnais this year, right?
No, it's going to be by Hallis Hall, isn't it?
Is it all Hallis?
Yeah, I think it's all Hallis Hall. Yeah.
Like I'm desperate to watch this guy in training camp and practices. I'm desperate. I want to see if they use him right. I just really could see him being a wide tight end and creating crazy mismatches. And
yeah,
I watched him make some crazy circus catches, one-handed diving catches in the end zone over the top of a cornerback. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the guy we wanted at tight end. So hopefully the Bears use him right, and hopefully he's a hard worker, because I think that's his future as a tight end in this league.
Oh, let's hope. I haven't done nearly as much homework on these guys as you have, but what you said was very intriguing. So if you could get one of those to work out, you would take that. Obviously, you don't depend on these guys to be your saviors, but if you could find some nice pieces here, every good piece at a position counts.
Yeah, I mean, because we talked about the defense. I think they've solidified that defense. I don't think they need to add anybody else. I think they're solid where they are. Offense, I would be surprised if they're not watching the waiver wire for guys to get cut, for depth pieces, an offensive line, running back. I think this, if Artavis Pierce, could be that guy, that third back. Because I think, I think they're probably going to carry 4 running backs. David Montgomery's your starting guy. Ryan Nall, I guess, probably gets a spot just because you don't have anybody else. But I think the Bears are probably going to look to add a veteran at some point to compete for that last spot.
Yeah, I think that's ideal.
Tariq Cohen, he's much less a running back than he is a gadget type player, and I think that's his best spot, is put him in the slot, put him in trick plays, run him some sweeps, not pounding him between the tackles. So that's why I carry 4 running backs, because he's a running back in name, and you don't have a lot of depth there. So they probably try to pick up a veteran somewhere in there, and maybe another offensive lineman. But I really see this roster taking its form that it's going to be. It's you're just going to watch for other teams to shed some salary or some project guys that the Bears might take a risk on.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
Yeah, well, I guess that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn app, Google Play, Spotify. Share the podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. And thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her, you can have her, she's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.